everyone. My name is Sonja Salser, and I'm the founder of Caribbean Innovation Ventures. Our mission is to inspire Caribbean entrepreneurs to reach their full potential. And we do this by profiling successful Caribbean entrepreneurs around the world. So today, I'm very excited to be interviewing Lawrence Bancroft, who is the founder, president, and CEO of Bovivium Capital. Lawrence, welcome to Caribbean Innovation Ventures. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you for having me, Sonja. It's a pleasure and an honor to obviously be part of this kind of endeavor. So I look forward to the conversation.
Great. Again, thank you for being here. And as you know, Lawrence, the purpose of our conversation today is to share your story to inspire individuals in the Caribbean who want to become entrepreneurs. So let's get started.
Absolutely.
So my first question for you, or questions are, which Caribbean nation are you from, and what is your favorite Caribbean dish?
That's an easy one. All right, I like the way this interview is going so far already. I was born in Georgetown, Guyana, and I'm torn when it comes to my favorite dishes because it's not just one. As you can imagine, during the seasons, like holiday seasons, I have to have my pepper pot. So that's number one during the holiday season. But year round, I would have to say it's going to be my cook-up rice with all the fixings, black eyed peas in particular, whether it has, salt beef and some okra, you know how it is. So good.
Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry right now.
I'm very lucky to have a wife and a mother-in-law and a mother that can make those dishes very, very well. So I've had many occasions to enjoy them.
Good. Well, I'm telling you now, I may be at your house for Christmas. So.
That's easy. You're always welcome. You're always welcome.
Good. Okay. Can you share a little bit about your educational and professional background? Like, where did you go to school?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I did my undergraduate studies at Cornell University. I did it and focused on industrial labor relations, which is also an alum of Cornell University, hence the thumbs up. I graduated a little early, and I decided that I was either going to go to law school or business school or graduate school, and I decided to go to graduate school. My initial intention was really to focus on politics, and I went to Cornell's Institute of Public Policy and got my master's degree there, studied in Africa for a little bit, and then I had an opportunity to work at Goldman Sachs on Wall Street. I was one of the founding members of this group that was called the Global Manager Strategies Group, where I focused on manager selection, which means essentially finding investment management companies to manage assets for the firm, whether it's our underlying clients or proprietary capital of Goldman Sachs. So I did that for 5 years prior to starting Bovivium Capital.
Great, excellent. And in layman terms, tell us more about Bovivium Capital and what problem you're trying to solve and who are your customers?
Absolutely. So we are a financial services firm that focused on the asset management space for public market equities and fixed income. So in other words, if you have a defined benefit or a retirement plan or a 401k, we're managing those kinds of assets. And we're doing it in a fund-to-funds approach, which means that we're actually hiring underlying investment management companies on your behalf to manage the underlying assets. We're managing the risk, we're managing the portfolio diversification, et cetera. Most of our clients are large public pension plans and corporations across the country. Actually, we'll have some international clients. And we run right around $1.5 billion in assets currently.
Wow, that's very impressive. Wow, I'm very proud of
you.
So tell me, what started you on this entrepreneurship journey? Why did you start the firm?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. And sometimes you find the niche based on the opportunity that presents itself. When I was in college, I started a online job links type firm, which was very, very similar to monster.com. And, I always had that entrepreneurial bug inside of me, whether it was when I was growing up and having my paper route. It was always something I needed to actually, an itch that I needed to scratch. So when I went to Goldman Sachs, this was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when the dot-coms were, high flyers. there were some opportunities I was fortunate enough to see on the private investment side. And there was one company that was looking to buy itself out that had a very interesting business model, and I thought it could be improved upon. So I put together a business plan, spoke to some of the partners there, and we went out and raised capital to start the company. So I think when I think back to what it's important for me from an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's just the need for me to do something that I started or created. And I've been fortunate enough to be trained in various areas to explore those different opportunities.
Wow, that's great. Great. That's really good. I didn't know you were an entrepreneur at Cornell. That's great. That's wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah. In fact, a couple of engineers, a couple of engineering buddies, and this was right at the height of when the internet was, really get going, and we saw an opportunity to create essentially a career services that was online. And this was before anyone else was actually thinking about doing it. And that was something we launched for a while. We ended up being relatively successful, and we sold some of that off, actually.
Nice. Good. Okay, so so I have questions as you start businesses, you have your current business. What are some of the challenges that you face, even in this specific, with your business now? What are some of your challenges that you face?
Yeah, first and foremost, because we're in the public markets, the equity markets, fixed income markets go up and down, especially given the interest rate environment that we're in, the challenges that we're seeing in the economy. It is not easy to be someone that is managing assets. So first and foremost, dealing with the battle of just dealing with the public markets. Secondly, we are a very talent-heavy industry. So the people are essentially the assets. So attracting and retaining talent has been a challenge for us over the years, especially when you are looking for the best coming out of all the prestigious universities. They have a lot of options. And especially when you're based here in San Francisco, which by all estimations is the mecca of entrepreneurialism and venture capital, your talented employees get lured away for any number of different opportunities. So first is the market, second is, attracting and retaining the best talent. And those two things, I think, will lead for a successful outcome if you can get them right.
Nice. Yes, your people are one of your greatest assets. So wonderful.
Yeah.
What motivates you, and do you have a mentor? Because when you have challenges, days, ups and downs. So what motivates you?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I think, I've always been a self-motivated person. I think usually driven by the fact that I'd like to see things created and like to see things work. So I'm very stubborn in trying to see things through to fruition. And I look and leverage some of the folks that I've had over the years as mentors. And I think you have mentors for different parts of your life. When I think about it in a professional capacity, there's some folks that I've met over the years that I go to consistently to give me some advice as to whether or not I should go into X business or Y business, but also on the personal side, right? When you're thinking about raising a family, when you're thinking about personal development, looking at people who have had certain levels of achievement and talking to them and saying, hey, how about this? How about that? And of course, a lot of that comes from, on a personal side, comes from family. It comes from my mother. It comes from my father-in-law. It comes from my wife. So when I think about, mentoring, it's a family affair on the personal side, as well as on the professional side. And then it's the professional aspect of it when it's around which areas that I want to go into. When I start thinking about motivations, I've got 3 little ones, and there's nothing like being a good mentor or an example for them. So I've got to essentially set a great example, and that's motivation that is always ongoing, and I think keeps me focused.
Great. It's so nice to hear about your family and encouraging you. That's really important. Wonderful. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start they're in a 9-to-5 now in terms of their job, and they want to start their own business?
I think Marcus Garvey puts it best. He has a quote that I often use, and he says, if you have no confidence in self, you're twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you've won even before you've started. So there's a certain base level of confidence that you have to have in the idea, in the process in order for you to make that decision as to whether or not to leave your very well paid, potentially, job to go out and start an endeavor. So I think, one, making sure that you're confident in the idea, that you're thorough. And then secondly, a plan. It is very important for you to have a detailed expectations around milestones that you need to achieve to actually bring these ideas out. And I think sometimes people are in love with the idea of being an entrepreneur and starting their own business, but really don't do a lot of the legwork in advance of it to make sure that it's something that's feasible, whether it's testing the market for your idea, whether it's making sure that you're properly funded, making sure that you have the right people to bring this idea to fruition. All these things, I believe, you need to think through. And then, again, you're going to hear a lot of naysayers. You're going to have people that are saying you can't do this and you can't do that. So you have to have that confidence from within that you're going to be successful and you're going to do the work that's required to make that a reality. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some folks that are delusional, right? Not all ideas are going to work out, but I think if you're going to, give it the best effort, make sure that you're thorough in it, and have people around you that are going to be helping you think through some of these ideas and processes.
Great. Wow, this is really great advice. Question for you, even though you have a great idea sometimes, funding is always an issue. So in your particular case, how did you secure funding for your business to get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it always starts with, are you individually putting your money where your mouth is? So when we first got started, I sold everything I had, whether it was, my Goldman Sachs stock, whether it was my condo and apartments in New York. I did all in, and that was essentially a good example for any individual investors that we were going out to seek capital from down the line, because they saw that we were all in and extremely invested in the business. So when we start raising capital, it was an easy discussion for us to talk to friends and family and high net worth individuals. As we went through kind of our Series B and Series D round of funding, the institutional investors had something more substantive to review. So we were going concern, we had cash flows, and it was a pretty straightforward investments for any institutional investor to make. So I would say when you're starting out the gate with your idea, you've got to be able to eat your own pudding, right? You've got to be able to say that I am invested in this and here's my financial contribution. That helps with angel investors seeing that you're also aligned with their interests and helping them give you capital. So we went and did a friends and family round, raised, I think, $200,000 initially, and then we went and raised $2 million and then eventually $5.5 million. So it's a process, but you've got to also make the financial investments in addition to your blood, sweat, and tears associated with starting your own company.
That's amazing. I think you just sharing that information is just wonderful. That you do have to give in and dig the ditch and be submerged yourself. Yeah, wonderful, right. Excellent. Few more questions. How are you planning to grow your business? What is your strategy for doing so?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, we are essentially invested in the public markets, public equity markets. So we've got Russell 3000, 2000, and some fixed income or bond investments. We're now looking to pivot into real estate, private equity, infrastructure type strategies, and essentially taking it to a broader market outside of the U.S. So part of our initiative, and I'm glad we're having this international conversation, is being able to service clients outside of the U.S. with strategies that are new to us. So those areas, as I mentioned, real estate, private equity broadly defined, infrastructure type projects.
Awesome. Fantastic. So you mentioned that you have a beautiful wife and kids, and I know being an entrepreneur can be crazy in terms of timing and so forth. How do you find time to spend with them? Find time for yourself, first of all, to spend time with a family. How do you balance things?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it means getting up early and staying up late. It's just fundamental um, thinking around time management. From a personal standpoint, I like to work out, so I get up really early and I go to the gym and I make it an hour. Then I come back and I take my kids to school every day in the morning, so I can have that time with them to decompress, and I try to make it home in time for dinner. So I am very mindful around being a good father, a good husband, and also making sure that I have time out to recharge. And that does mean that there are certain times that I'm going to be away, whether it's traveling or having to deal with some issue that keeps me at the office longer than I'd like to be. But I think it's very important to be balanced, and you just have to make it happen. And unfortunately, sleep is something that usually gets in the way of that.
Yes, I heard someone say sleep could be overrated. So
It's
yeah,
necessary, but in order to get a really good balance of family time, work, and personal time, you've got to carve out a little bit of the downtime, if you will, to make things happen that you feel that are important to you.
great. And I'm so happy to hear that you work out. It's very important to maintain your body and things like that. So great. Glad that you're doing that. Um,
Thank you.
what advice, final advice would you give for future Caribbean entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think there's a certain tenacity that comes from folks from the Caribbean that I love this country. I love America. And I think that I've had a lot of great American friends, but there's a certain drive that I found amongst my Caribbean brethren and sisters that are unique. I think part of it is realizing how great an opportunity we have in this country, and taking advantage of all the educational opportunities that are put in front of us, and never taking anything for granted. I think there's an underlying theme that we're blessed to have these opportunities, and we know of so many others back home that would die for a chance to really live up to their full expectations. So it's almost expected of us to go above and beyond. And we have to remember that we stand on the shoulders of many that have come before us. So as a result, there's a certain tenacity that just comes with who we are, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So keep struggling, keep fighting, and believe in yourself. There's a huge network of folks that are out there that I think could be helpful. All you have to do is Sonja, and she'll put you in touch with them.
Well, thank you. And Lawrence, this comes to the end of our conversation, but I want to thank you so much for spending this time with Caribbean Innovation Ventures. And your story is inspiring. Just sitting here, I'm already excited and motivated about the things I want to do. And I'm sure that others will be inspired. So thank you again.
The pleasure's all mine.
And to my Caribbean audience, thank you for watching this video. And remember to aim for the sky, because if you fall, you're going to fall on coconut trees. But if you aim for coconut trees, you're going to fall on the ground. Thanks. Bye-bye.